Welcome to Talking Technical. This is a technical approach to injury prevention in the sport of gymnastics. And today we're going to be talking about the Pommel Horse circle. Now, a circle is the base of the event. Almost every skill comes from a nice circle, so we want to make sure our circle is fine-tuned to have good, difficult, consistent skills, but also so we're collecting the least amount of wear and tear over the years on our wrists and elbows. Principle number 1, minimal leaning. While we circle, our shoulders are going to be moving back and forth regardless of where we are in the circle, and we want to keep those shoulders as centered as possible. So here we see what we're looking for. Head up nice and tall, shoulders don't move, head doesn't move, and the hands are quick. We're spending most of our time on 2 hands, not 1. Now here's an example, or here we can see it first of all with one of the best in the world, Xiao Qin, nice and tall. Now I'm going to show you what we don't want, which is head moving excessively. Shoulders moving over and giving hyperextension to the wrist that's going to put us at risk for wrist injury. Then we come slamming back down into hyperextension on the other wrist, and we're always slamming. This comes from lifting the hands too early in the circle and spending too much time on 1 hand. We want to spend majority of our time on 2 hands. Principle number 2, almost a continuation of the first, and this is that the circle is always falling, believe it or not. It's the gravitational acceleration that gives the circle its speed. So that means if we stopped ourselves at any portion in the circle, it should not be able to hold statically there. It should tip. Now what happens when we're leaning excessively here on the wrist is we're creating a counterbalance, and this counterbalance takes away from our ability to be in a free falling circle position, so it'll slow us down. As for here, when we're spending majority of our time on 2 hands, we're always falling, and that's why we have to lift the hand quick so that we don't tip. Principle number 3, eyes ahead of the hands. This is a simple principle. We just don't want the eyes looking at the hands. It's too slow of a reaction time and it affects the speed of the circle. So we keep focused just slightly ahead of our circle so we're ready for where we're going. And if the eyes are looking too far down, the circle will lose its balance. Principle number 4, hips turn slightly out. Here we have a nice top-down view of that hip turn on the circle. Not the shoulders, but the hips. Here you see the best guy again, Xiao Qin, great circle. His hips are turned out slightly to the right. Now what this does is it keeps his body slightly ahead of where it actually is, so as he's free falling, the body's constantly scooping itself back up in the action to keep a nice fast circle happening. Principle number 5, a rigid and fixed body line. With Pommel Horse, we want the body to be almost fixed non-stop in the same position regardless of where we are in the circle, with the exception of maybe a little heel drive during that second side support or the third quarter of the circle. So now we'll dive into the shape of Pommel Horse. We'll start with the shoulders and the head. We've already talked a little bit about this here. Head is tall, is almost like it's suspended by a string, and the shoulders are tall along with it. The shoulder blades, this is the important one, we don't want to see them retracted. We want to see them protracted forward, not retracted, protracted. And this goes for every aspect of the circle, whether we're in the front, side, back. We don't want retracted, we want protracted. There you see those shoulder blades protracted. Now we put it into the support, retract, protract. Retract, protract. The protract makes the body lifted up nice and high. Same thing now, believe it or not, for the back support. Retract, protract is what we want, not retract, protract. Retract, protract. Here you get another angle. The chest the body's not getting hollow in the front. The hips are still open, but we see the shoulders protracting. The core and the hips. Starting with the core, we want that stomach crunched. The smaller the core, the better for the circle. It's going to get the body swinging nice and light as long as we get that stomach crunched in. All right, the best circles have a nice crunched in stomach, but the hips, as you see here, are pressed forward as the stomach stays tucked in, almost like an S shape. Ribs in, stomach small, hips open, not out, stomach in, S shape. Now we'll see this S shape kind of applied into the different supports. Here we see it in the front support, protracted shoulders, core engaged, hips open, head tall. Here it's in the back support, that same nice shape. Of course, good form and knee extension and toe point. And then here on the second side support,